Senate will be in order. The chair recognizes the senator from Polk, Senator Whitver.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I request unanimous consent to immediately consider Senate File 620 with the senator from Scott, Senator Smith.
Senator from Polk, Senator Whitver, asking unanimous consent to immediately consider SF 620. Hearing no objections to ordered. Senator Smith, you're in order for opening comments on Senate File 620.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate File 620 is a bill composed of 3 redistricting maps: Congressional, State Senate, and State House. This bill is the initial plan as authorized in Iowa Code Chapter 42. The state constitution, along with Chapter 42, set the requirements for redistricting. We are following that process. In assessing this plan, there are clear indications that Plan 1 can be improved by a second iteration addressing compactness and population deviation. This concludes my opening comments.
Is there further discussion on Senate File 620? Chair recognizes Senator from Dubuque, Senator Jochum.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Smith, for your comments. So, fair, independent maps give people the power of their voice at the ballot box. I listened very closely to Senator Smith's comments about population and compactness. And I will say that this is also, believe it or not, the 3rd time I have been involved in a redistricting plan. 2001, 2011, 2021. Elections belong to the people. So just to refresh our memory on Chapter 42, it clearly states, legislative and congressional districts shall be established on the basis of population. Congressional districts shall each have a population as nearly equal as practicable to the ideal district population. No congressional district shall have a population which varies by more than 1%. It goes on to say if a challenge is filed with the Supreme Court, burden rests with the General Assembly. District lines shall coincide with the boundaries of political subdivisions of the state. When there's a choice between dividing a local political subdivision, the more populous subdivision shall be divided before and along a county line, or before the less populous. But this statement does not apply to a legislative district boundary drawn along a county line which passes through a city that lies in more than one county. Districts shall be composed of contiguous territory. Areas which meet only at the points of adjoining corners are not contiguous. Districts shall be reasonably compact in form. In general, reasonably compact districts are those which are square, rectangular, or hexagon in shape, but not irregularly shaped to the extent permitted by natural or political boundaries. Length, width, compactness. The compactness of a district is greatest when the length of the district and the width of the district are equal. The measure of a district's compactness is the absolute value of the difference between the length and the width of the district. I might add that these maps before us, the average length width compactness is 13.31 miles. The population deviation between the districts, less than 1% for congressional, and legislative districts, the mean, looking for it, flipped it too quickly here. The absolute mean deviation is 201 persons. And then it goes into perimeter compactness. I won't read all of that. Finally, it says no district shall be drawn for the purpose of favoring a political party incumbent legislator or member of Congress, or any other person or group, or for the purpose of augmenting or diluting the voting strength of a language or racial minority group. In establishing districts, no use shall be made of any of the following criteria: the addresses of an incumbent legislator or members of Congress, political affiliations of registered voters, previous election results, demographic information other than population head counts, except as required by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. The maps before us satisfy the Iowa law and the Iowa Constitution. To those Republicans in this room who may have some concerns, this map is fair. It's independent. It does not give an advantage of one party over the other. It does not, nor should it. Nor does it take into account where any of us live, nor should it. Today, plain and simply, is your chance to do the right thing. Nothing erodes democracy more than when the people lose their trust in their elected officials. And they begin to lose that trust when we don't listen and hear what they're saying. More than 250 Iowans commented on these maps. Every one of them, regardless of political party, gave us kudos as a state for having the gold standard. We are one of the few states that has never had a lawsuit filed against it in more than 4 decades, because our plans have been fair and independent and nonpartisan. So today is your chance to do what the overwhelming majority of Iowans want us to do. Today is your chance to approve a fair election map, a map based on objective criteria: population, compactness, local government boundaries. Today we can either restore and strengthen our democracy, or we can continue to erode it. Senators, please support Senate File 620. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from Polk, Senator Bisignano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise in support of this plan. I had the benefit of being involved in one other redistricting in 1991. The Democrats were in control of the House and the Senate, and the first plan we took, because of the standards that Iowans have set and how they want their politics to proceed. This plan, you could say it's good, you could say it's bad. The one beauty about redistricting is everybody looks at it differently. Everybody in this room looks at this plan differently, because first you look for yourself. Don't say you don't, because we do. We look to see our district. We look to see good or bad. We look to see options. And so we're in a phase now with this, is if you reject the first plan, which doesn't surprise me that we will, then you're going to face a second plan. Second plan is going to be drawn just like the first plan didn't really exist. And you're going to get another plan that you can't amend, and you're going to look at it selfishly in a good way to see where you stand. And some of you are going to say, whoa, well, this is better for me. I don't have a colleague I have to run against. But some of you are going to have a shock, because it's going to put you in a different place. We can't go for another plan and nothing changes from this plan. Okay, so we got to assume that once this plan disappears, we're all up for grabs again. And that's fair as long as it's done in a nonpartisan way. And that's what we've accepted in this state. And, you know, none of us sit home in the evening and say, you know what, I think people are happy with the way everything's going. The partisanship is killing this country. The partisanship is killing this body. It's killing local bodies. It's killing neighborhoods and friendships. I've never been in a phase of politics in my life, and I've been in it for almost 50 years, to where truly we are cutting to the bone in politics with our friends, neighbors, and family. This is an opportunity to just say, you know, we have designated the service agency to do this in a nonpartisan way, and we're going to trust whatever they come up with was done in a fair, nonpartisan manner. As Senator Jochum said, once we leave this plan on the floor and we send a memo to the service agency and tell them what our objection is, then we have taken the anonymity basically off of this plan. Because this plan, no one knew where you lived to help draw this. They didn't know who was paired with each other, senators and representatives, Ds, Rs. They didn't know who would be unhappy or not unhappy. Wasn't their mission. Their mission was to give us a clear plan of a new decade with no names, no faces, no numbers of Democrats and Republicans, and no pairings of who it would match up. That truly is a nonpartisan plan. Okay, the second plan is going to be a nonpartisan plan per se because it comes from the agency and it can't be amended. But it will come with the caveat of what the complaint is of this body that they didn't accept this plan because. And so we're going down a path that really, once you abandon Plan 1, Plan 2 is about the last bastion that you have of bipartisan or nonpartisan redistricting. Because I've never been involved, and none of you have ever been involved, in a plan that comes to the Senate that we all have an opportunity to file an amendment. Well, that, if you think about it, is very interesting. Because to resolve Senator A's plan, we affected Senator N's plan. We've affected other districts. You can't change populations or geographics without the whole map moving. You can't do that. So you're putting all your marbles, in my opinion, on Plan 2, which still is unseen, and it's nonpartisan. But you're on deck for Plan 3. And Plan 3, if it ever comes into this chamber, remember that there's another chamber, 100 of them, who got many more paired than we did in this chamber. But they have to agree to any amendment that you do in here that's going to change their life in some way. This is extremely complicated, and if we don't look at the end game of this, we're going to get trapped into a scenario that's going to make Iowa look like some of the worst gerrymandering states in the United States. So keep that in mind, that this plan, take it or leave it. Second plan, you're going to take it or leave it, but you're getting close to the trap door. And once that door opens and we get to an amended situation, all bets are off in both sides, and ultimately it may be a Supreme Court plan. So I don't know how we resolve if we get farther down the road with this, but keep in mind, when you own 3/4 of this state by your legislative districts, why would you expect to run into me out there in redistricting? You're going to run into each other because you're all next to each other because you have such a large majority that there's not a lot of places to go. It's easy to put off to tomorrow what we don't want to do here today. That's all we're going to do. We're going to make up some scenario why this plan is not a good plan. We're going to send it back to the drafters who spent a great deal of time and the right information without the partisanship, and we're going to tell them, though, it's not tight enough or geographically it's too broad, and they're going to send you back another plan that could look just like this plan in reverse. Now, what do we do? So that's my advice is we're moving forward. You know, there hasn't been a great deal on this. Everybody acts like nobody's talked to anybody about this. Come on. Seriously? We're politicians. That plan came out, and that day everybody's talking. Everybody's starting to work. We all know. But the interesting part of this vote, really, there's going to be a 32-18, my guess, in reverse. But no one should walk away interpreting that to be partisan, right? This isn't going to be a partisan vote. It's just you're all going to vote no, and we're all going to vote yes. And so it just happened that you all thought that way, and we all thought that way, right? No. When is the time that we stand as a body and do what the majority wants to do? Not the majority in control, the majority of senators in our chamber. When's the last time we got an opportunity to vote on a bill and it passed with 26 votes of D's and R's? When's the last time a bill came to the floor when you only had 26 of your 32 supporting it? There aren't many opportunities to be a statesman in this room anymore. But there are opportunities. This is one that no one in this room could say what Plan 2 is going to be, but we're all moving to get to Plan 2. Well, we'll get to Plan 2, but nobody knows. This could be twice as bad as it is today for whoever thinks it's a bad plan, and, you know, maybe twice as good for those who didn't. The point is, be a statesman at some point and say, you know what, I don't think this plan's bad. I like it. I could live with it. I mean, what are we afraid of? The one thing that you don't get the luxury of doing with reapportionment, I hope, is to sit down and pick your voters. Now, what a luxury. That if you're in the majority and you get to Plan 3 and you get to do amendments, that any senator in the majority could pick their voters. Can say, I would like this area. I would like this area. I know a lot of people in this area. My family's from this area. That's what you're going to have. People picking their voters. What is a bigger insult to Iowans? To basically be told who they're going to be represented by because they were chosen, not selected in a random redraw of this state, but in a power move by a majority party that's going to decide what towns in their areas that they wish to represent. That's really what we're moving towards. And if you don't address that honestly, that when you do get to an amendment plan, you do pick your voters, it doesn't just happen by accident. When you file that amendment, you're filing that amendment with your name on it, designing how you want to redistrict the state of Iowa, which will, I'm sure, include your district. And I'm sure you're not going to throw away, 20% of your party's voting population. So think about where we're headed. Even though you're in the majority, you may not want what you're headed to. But I can tell you, everything's going to sit on the second plan because you move to the third plan, it will destroy this institution. It will destroy your majority. It will destroy your party also. Because when we can file for our own best interest, that's what we're doing. When we amend the plan, we file for our best interest, our selfish interest, not the Iowans' interest, not the community's interest, our interest. Well, frankly, I'd like to tell you all, after all the years I've been around here, you're not that important. You really aren't that important. I can tell you right now that 90% of Iowans don't even know we're in this building. And if they do know we're in this building, they couldn't tell you why. Why is that? Because we're not the most important people in their life. Their families are, their jobs are, their life is, their health. And so they trust you to do the right thing, to do the fair thing, and then go out and run. And if you win and the Republicans maintain the majority or increase the majority, so be it. But you could do that with a clear conscience of, hey, we didn't decide this. Our agency decided this, and we're going to live with it. So think about those points, because that's really where we are today. This really isn't a partisan battle. There is no partisanship in a vote here. You've got 32 votes. So the battle isn't here. The battle's there. And what you're willing to accept. But also know where you're going, because there aren't many people in this chamber that's been through reapportionment. And it's easy to be led by leadership and by colleagues and people that have other interests, the big picture interest, not yours. So you decide what's good, and you vote. And then we move it to the House, and let them have this same debate. Much tougher in a room twice as big. But that's the way we ought to be approaching this, but that's the direction we're moving to, is that trap door. And when we hit that, we won't have anything to say. We're going to sit back and watch you do it all, because your amendments are the only ones that will pass in this chamber. But we will see how it divides you as a caucus when you start picking and choosing what colleagues you're willing to throw overboard by your vote, by your selection, by your amendment. That's where you don't want to go, because people are not going to forget when they come back and want it. You threw them out on an amendment. That will linger. Politics and politicians have long memories. We don't forget. So think about it. How bad is this compared to where we're headed? And we may end up with almost exactly the same thing at the end, except there will be hard personal feelings amongst each other based on our self-interest. So this is an easy way to stay clean, move it along. It's not a devastating plan by any means to anybody. You just got to go out and work. We got to go out and work to take the majority. You got to go out and work to maintain the majority. Congressional seats got to go out and do what they got to do. I don't think that D.C., with the DNC or the RNC, should have any influence in this body in how we do reapportionment. We take care of the state of Iowa. And we're going to do that with how we vote, either today or down the road. But I just want you to get a snapshot of what is going to happen as we deteriorate towards that third plan and we start amending into our colleagues' districts. I ask you to vote for it, do it the right way, do it in a nonpartisan way. We are done. We can go home. We can get back to our lives, and we'll be back in January to finish the session before the election. But let's not drag this to Christmas. That's where we're headed. Christmas. Close to Christmas. We'll be in December, if that's where you want to go. But remember, nothing good comes in an amended redistricting plan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no further discussion, the chair recognizes Senator from Scott, Senator Smith, for final remarks on Senate File 620.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate File 620 may meet statutory requirements. However, there are opportunities for these maps to be improved on compactness and population deviation. Voting down the first plan does not violate the quote-unquote gold standard. Rather, the process in Chapter 42 provides clear directions on multiple iterations of a redistricting plan. If we are to follow the standards set in law, then the compactness of all three maps can and should be improved. Iowa law stipulates that, quote, in general, reasonably compact districts are those which are square, rectangular, or hexagonal in shape, and not irregularly shaped, end quote. This map includes a triangle, a pyramid, a figure eight, and a district that is so irregular, it looks like the 1800 salamander known for gerrymandering. One House seat, House District 18, which is nested within a Senate district, is over 300 miles in perimeter. Its Senate District 9, is 307 miles in perimeter. House District 18 would be the 7th largest Senate district in perimeter as a House seat. In terms of population, the State House map has 18 districts that are within 100 people of exceeding or failing to meet the ideal population by 1%, with one district that is 0.97% above the ideal population. The state Senate map has a range of nearly 500 people above and below the ideal population. These deviations, along with compactness, should improve to better meet the standards as required under the state constitution and statute. Mr. President, I move Senate File 620 be read for the last time, and I urge my colleagues to vote no.
Senator from Scott moves that Senate File 620 be read for the last time and placed on its passage. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Secretary will read.
Senate File 620, bill for enactment of congressional legislative districts, including effective date provisions being enacted by General Assembly, State of Iowa.
Senator from Scott moves that the reading thus far be considered the last reading of the bill. Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Is the title agreed to? The title is agreed to. The question now shall the bill pass. Those in favor of the passage of Senate File 620 will vote aye. Those opposed vote no. Secretary will open the voting system and receive your vote. So every senator voted. Every senator has voted. Secretary, close the voting systems. The Secretary will lock the voting system and record votes. Senator will pay attention to the result of the roll call. Those voting aye, 18. Those voting no, 32. The bill, not having received a constitutional majority, is declared to have failed to pass the Senate. The chair recognizes